What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical average American here today to react and learn about shocking things about English culture, otherwise known as culture shocks, or as this video puts it, 10 things that shock Americans, being me included. You know, for as similar as a lot of Americans believe America and Britain are, there are plenty of fairly obvious differences, some of which I've learned about, but I really enjoy these kinds of videos. The culture shock. I've never been to Britain myself, so especially for that reason, but these videos, these culture shocks, things you only experience when you go to a different culture in the flesh, these tend to reveal, like, the most random, little, weird, unique differences between our cultures that I would otherwise never in a million years ever know about. The closest thing to being there is this video right here. 10 things that'll shock me from the comfort of my living room. So this YouTube video seemed quite fascinating to me, so let's take a look.
Hey guys, I'm Eric.
And I'm Grace. We're the Wandering Ravens.
And today we are going to tell you 10 things that were culture shock for us when we arrived here in England.
Oh, okay, perfect. So these two individuals are Americans living in England currently, at least at the time this video was created. So yeah, they can directly relate to me. They are experiencing it firsthand. Perfect.
The first thing that shocked us when we arrived in England was just how many foreigners there are in London.
We'd always heard that London...
High number of internationals. It's a very, fancy way of saying lots of tourists. Lots and lots of tourists to England. That's what I've heard. I mean, if I'm being honest, whenever an American ever talks about kind of traveling overseas, leaving America, very scary. Leaving America, exploring the world, oftentimes, a lot of the time even, it's to go to England. So this makes complete sense.
Arrived in England was just how many foreigners there are in London.
We'd always heard that London was multicultural, but just the extent of foreigners that were there was really shocking to us. And
although they're not just talking about Americans, by the way. They're just saying, hey, I mean, this applies to everywhere in the world, especially London, England, right? That's like literally one of the top tourist destinations on the planet.
not in a bad way. It was just surprising because when we were coming to England, we're like, oh, there's probably going to be a lot of English people and we'll be hearing lots of English. But when we were in public, about 90% of the languages we were hearing around us were foreign languages and not English.
Pretty much everywhere was represented in London, so that was really cool. And to just hear all of the different languages.
Oh, they are in London. Oh, oh, huh. I mean, it's super interesting and awesome to like get to appreciate and experience all the multiculturalism in London, but at the same time, part of me would be like, I came all the way to England to hear some English people speak with some English accents, and instead apparently like 90% of the people, particularly in London, it sounds like, are actually fellow world travelers, you could say. So it's kind of a blessing, kind of like also kind of ripping off your ability to get a real English experience.
Because we feel like, I mean, Seattle's pretty multicultural as well, but not to the extent of London. Like,
No way.
just
Yeah.
all of the languages and everyone speaking different languages in like the restaurants. We'd be sitting at our table and each table was speaking a different language.
This
Huh.
happened every time we went
Yeah,
on
pretty
date,
much every time.
basically.
There'd be like the table of Koreans. We could always hear them because
Korea!
we understand a tiny bit of Korean, so we were like,
Of course,
Okay.
we lived in Korea for 2 years,
Yeah,
for those
so
of you
we're
who
like-
don't know.
the Koreans.
Oh my gosh, these two have been around. My goodness. Wow, I guess I never really realized how multicultural London is. I mean, there's no reason I would realize that until this moment when I was told, but yeah.
French people, Eastern European people, just everywhere.
Right.
Number 2! 2.
Number 2, the subways are really small. It was actually shocking because our experience with subways is in Korea and Japan, and these subways are very wide. There's lots of standing room. They're also very tall.
Oh, they're talking about inside of like the carriage itself, inside of the train, whatever you want to call it, the rail system, whatever you refer to it as, the subway, I would call it. There's more space in other countries around the world, but in England, everyone's jam-packed and crammed together like a can of sardines. Is that what we're saying?
But the tube, as it's called in London, actually looks kind of like a tube. Yeah,
Okay.
it makes sense.
It's like,
Based on what I had built up in my mind of all being stuffed like sausages into a little container, this doesn't actually look horrible. It's not like everyone's knees are bumping against each other. I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell just from a picture, but it's doable, right?
like not tall, or at least the ones that we rode on were not tall, like all the way across on the ceiling, but it's kind of
like
like
a box
curved or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like curved. Maybe
Yeah.
not all of them are that way, but the ones that we rode on were that way. So
Yeah.
that was interesting.
It was just surprising and shocking how small the tube was, at least
Okay.
the tubes that we rode.
That I feel like this is a super random one that I would think. Like if I went to London, went to the tube, it's like, man, it's a lot smaller than I imagined it. I feel like that is the perfect random thought that I would have.
Speaking of tubes, that brings us to number 3. I
Okay.
love how English people wait patiently for people who are on the tube to get off before getting on the tube themselves. That is something after living in Korea for a couple years, you'll know that is not the case.
It's I don't live in like a major super busy American city like at the moment, so I can't like definitively be the expert on this, but Americans struggle with lines, with queues. We struggle. It can be a bit of a battle to get like onto the tube, I would imagine. It's up to the local English population to set the example. And apparently it's a very good, fine example, by the way.
As soon as the subway doors open and the train stops, everyone in Korea is just like pushing everybody else and
Yeah.
getting on
Battle
the
royale.
subway as fast as they can. So it was nice to go to a place where everyone just stands aside and waits for those people who are on the train to get off, which is what should happen.
This is actually
Yeah, I mean, it's not only polite, but it's in everyone's best interest in a way. Letting people off first, then you pile in, and then if you play your cards right and everyone has like a mutual respect going, you're gonna be the one coming out in theory when you get to your stop. So then everyone outside waiting is gonna grant you the courtesy of not bum rushing straight into you like a raging pack of wild bulls, and let you out. Unlike what might happen in America. You kind of have to have your guard up.
actually so shocking that the very first time we rode the tube, when the doors opened and everyone was waiting for people to get off, Grace turned to me and made that observation. She's like, oh my gosh, they're waiting for people to get off. What is this?
Madness!
It's amazing. This is incredible.
Number 4, this is just a really quick one, but light switches here are different than they are in the States, and whereas in the States and Korea and other countries, you flip on to turn the light switch
You
on,
flip up, yeah.
flip up to turn it
Turn
on,
it on,
and
flip
flip down
down.
to turn it off.
Really? I'm looking around for my light switches. Up for on. Yeah. Yeah, I guess up is for on. Honestly, I never really noticed that. I feel like I could travel to England and this would not be a culture shock in the slightest. Especially compared to some of the others so far, that this has been pretty darn good. I'm enjoying this video quite a bit, but the flipping of the light switch, I'm not sure I could have even told you which way America does it. Although now I know, randomly, for trivia night, that it's up is on. Okay.
Here,
I'm experiencing culture shock about my own culture right now.
The opposite.
yeah, from what we've seen, you flip up to turn it off and flip down to turn it on.
Number 5. The other thing that we found surprising when we arrived in England was that power outlets have to be switched on to use them. So it has like a little switch next to it, and you have to turn it on in order to use electronic appliances.
Right. Somewhere along the line, I have heard of this. This is like fancy. I don't know how else to put it. Is it a safety thing? Yeah, in America, if you want to turn something off, every now and again, you might just yank the cord out of the wall if you have to in a pinch. You might use the off button on the appliance itself. But I couldn't imagine having an off and on switch on the outlet itself. Well, it's a little overkill in my mind, although I've gone my entire existence without needing it. But maybe once you have it, it's like nice. I don't know. I don't know what to think of this.
So many times we've tried to boil like hot water for tea or coffee.
Or charge my phone.
And you forget to switch the power outlet on, and it
Yeah.
doesn't charge, or the water doesn't boil, and you're like,
Yeah. That's what would happen. That's probably happening to Americans right now in England, this second. I would just not remember about it for a long time, and it would really be annoying. And I'd end up keeping them on all the time and never touch it again. Knowing me, that's what I'd do.
I kind of like that though, because as I heard someone say the other day, it prevents like children from sticking things into the sockets and getting electrocuted. So I like that idea.
And then also, like in America, when we go on vacation or something like that, you have to run around the house and unplug everything so it doesn't.
exhausting.
It's not a fire hazard.
Or even like every night, you try to like unplug it, you know?
Yeah. Here, you just turn the outlets off. So that's actually kind of cool. It was shocking, but it's kind of cool.
It's a bit shocking, relatively so. It's definitely random and different, and I guess at the end of the day, you're getting an extra feature, which is only a bonus. The on-off switch does not offend me. I'm okay with it. Like it matters if I'm okay with it. Yeah, I decree that it is okay by law to have these. Ha!
And we'll probably try to do that on our own house one day.
Yeah, I like that.
Number 6, something else that has been a little shocking for us, is that tipping here is a bit different than back in the States.
Tipping gives me a little anxiety, because basically it seems like everywhere around the planet has a different way of tipping, a different way of approaching like what's acceptable, the minimum amount. Some places have 0 tipping, some have tipping included. I honestly am not quite sure about the details of tipping in England.
Whereas in the States, when you go to a restaurant, any receipt that you get is going to have a tip line where you write the tip. Here
Yeah.
at restaurants, they don't have that. And most cafes don't even have a tip jar. And so it's been really confusing for us to figure out what we do for tipping.
Yeah.
I've heard also that tipping is super minimal here. Like, if at all, it's
Yeah.
like just really minimal. So that's definitely different than America, whereas a server.
Minimal as you just don't do it, or minimal as you tip but not much? I'm not sure exactly what there's minimal tipping means exactly, if we're getting in the weeds here. But yeah, in America, tipping is like, you tip. Please tip 15 to 20% or more if you had a great experience. Some people tip less if they had a negative experience. They act like a bit of a judge of the service in some circumstances. Everyone has slight variations on how they approach it, but in general, tipping, you do it in America all the time for lots of things, not even like things other than food, other services and stuff. Yeah.
Server, you're like 20%, or you're a bad table, sort of.
Yeah. Question though, for the English folk in the audience, when I'm at a restaurant and they give me a receipt that doesn't have a tip line or anything on it, what am I supposed to do? Do I tip? Or is
Do you
that
just
just
leave
like
it
a
on the
no
table?
tip? Yeah, do you leave it on the table? Or is that just like we all agree that there's no tipping going on?
Oh, they don't even know. That's funny. They went ahead and made this part of the video. Tipping is different. It is a culture shock, but they actually aren't exactly sure what the answer is. That's funny.
In this situation, please let me know down in the comments so I don't make any social faux pas.
Okay.
Number 7. Real quick, I was just going to mention that in grocery stores here in England, they generally have a much larger selection of cheese than they do back home.
Oh, I read the title and it said, what did it say?
In England, they generally have a
It said, number 7, there's way more cheese here. And I was like, there's a larger quantity of cheeses? Like, it appears maybe that's true, but the size of the cheese is what strikes me. Are we saying the cheese is gigantic like this, gourmet? I've never seen a cheese this fancy in real life ever, if that says anything about the difference.
A much larger selection of cheese than they do
Oh.
back home in the States.
Wow.
Which I'm not going to complain about. I love that.
Amazing.
Okay.
I think it's just a lot more in the culture here, I guess,
Yeah.
than it is back home. Whereas
How did I never know that cheese was integral part of proper English culture? A wide variety of cheeses. I'm not complaining, but I am shocked.
back home, you usually only have like a couple different kinds of cheese to choose from, and not like
Cheddar,
Yeah.
Gouda,
not like mozzarella or parmesan.
mozzarella. Yeah.
Not like specialty cheeses. Here you'll have like many
Yeah, exactly. Like this right here. Never seen that in real life. In America, it's all processed, packaged, artificial tasting cheese. It's all you get, and you're gonna learn to like it. Darn it. This is like the cheese that's big and you have to cut it, and I don't even know how you get cheese. Like, you cut it into wedges, and then you cut that into, okay, pieces. You know, I could figure it out. Throw the giant cheese at me, I'll figure out the rest.
different types, and there'll be different ages as well.
Number 8. This is one you hear a lot, probably, but we don't know which direction to look when we cross the road. And
What?
this is for a couple of reasons. One, people here drive on the left side of the road, and so that's confusing. But
Yeah.
2, there are also a ton of one-way streets here, both in London and in the
Yeah.
villages that
Huh.
we've been in and towns. Lots of one-way streets that aren't obvious one-way streets, and
So this one was crossing the street. Crossing the road is scary. Okay, because a lot of one-way streets.
we've been in and towns. Lots of one-way streets that aren't obvious one-way streets, and so when
Okay.
we cross, it is so confusing to know
Which way to look?
which way to look, and so
It's
Okay.
quite dangerous, actually.
yeah.
You know, like
This sounds like one. I feel like in real life, if you just see which way the traffic is going, but I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt on this one and say that I bet, as someone not from England, when you go to England and experience this for real, the traffic and the scary is how scary it is. There's something to it. Maybe I'm not grasping it fully.
I am in fear of being struck by an automobile. That sounded ridiculous.
That was
but,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. We're working on our English accent.
That wasn't an English accent. That was
wasn't?
just me.
Sounding like an English person.
In London, though, there is a nice. I think it's so polite and courteous how they put on the ground like, "Look this way."
Yeah.
It's so funny. Before crossing the street, there's like
Oh, yeah. Look this way. Oh, and as an arrow. I know in other cultures around the world, they've even started putting lights into the ground at crosswalks because people were like looking down at their phones and not paying attention to crossing the street. So I forget where it was. I believe it was an Asian country. It has kind of experimented with installing stop and green and red lights into the ground just to make sure people are able to notice it because they're looking down at their phone a lot walking. It's just the perils of modern existence, huh?
paint on the sidewalk that says "Look left" or "Look right"
Yeah.
or "Look both ways." And so
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool. I was like, "Oh,
That was really good.
these English
Yeah.
folk have our back."
They know we're stupid.
I mean, maybe they just got tired of random foreigners like marching into the road. They're like, this is a bad look for us. We got to help out the little Americans and write it in giant letters on the ground.
Number 9. This is more of a question, but it was also a very big culture shock. Why are there 2 separate spigots for hot and cold water?
I am aware of the existence of this one. I thought it's only in older English homes. It's an old school thing. One's for hot, one's for cold. That's certainly not a thing in America. That'd be very bizarre to encounter, but I am at least aware of it now, that it is a thing. I forget why. Is it something to do with, like, the cleanliness of the hot and cold, or heating it, or what was it?
This, like, somebody please explain. I don't understand this.
Oh.
Like, do you want to wash your hands in freezing cold water and not kill any of the germs? I don't know if that's correct.
Okay. They're like me. They're like, they don't know why. They're like, what's going on here? You really need a dedicated hot and cold? Does that make the cold super cold and the hot super hot when it's exclusive hot faucet? I swear it's because of the way. I learned this at one point, man. It either has to do with the way the hot is heated, and like maybe the hot one has less germs, so you would use it for different things, and I don't know if sterilization has to do with it back in the day.
But whatever, that's what I think. Or do you want to scald yourself so that you can't even feel, and then you have to be fed by your husband?
They're trying to get warm water, so they're like trying to combine the hot and cold by throwing it towards each other. Very clever. I can probably...
Or do you want to
Maybe
scald
not.
yourself so that you can't even feel, and then you have to be fed by your husband for the next few days? Like,
Yeah.
choose.
It is very confusing, and this is not just something we've seen in homes, but we've seen it in museums, and churches, and cafes, and
It's like
restaurants.
everywhere in the restroom.
Yeah.
It's
Really?
two separate.
Two separate spigots, and you get scalding hot water, or you get freezing
Ice.
cold water.
Oh, so they are extreme. I really thought this was like getting phased out in modern buildings, and I guess I can't be sure. They seem to say that they're coming across it a lot in their time in England.
So, like, what I was doing, I know this
You
is
just stand up and
ridiculous,
go,
but yeah,
throw
I was
them
just like
together.
throwing them together and like, somebody explain.
Is that how you spot an American in England? If you see them in the bathroom and they are flailing around trying to combine the streams, that's the American right there.
Because somebody's got an explanation for why
there's a
this is
reason.
better, I'm sure.
Explain it to us.
It's not.
Number 10. It was shocking to us how much people jaywalk here. We had
Oh.
been warned by friends that, hey, just so you know, in London, it's okay to jaywalk. But when we came here, it was just surprising to see how frequently everyone jaywalks. Literally.
Oh, so it's okay? It's not against the law, which it is in America. Yeah, it's against the law. You can't just walk across a road. Although if you do get hit, it's generally accepted that it's not your fault. So I'm not sure what the law actually is. But this is more good information, not as someone walking around, but if you intend on doing any driving in England, this is good info to be aware that there's going to be tons of random people like flying around, walking across the roads everywhere. Like that's more of what I'm concerned about.
Literally everyone jaywalks all the
time.
Yeah, it's constant jaywalking. And we're coming from Seattle, which is, I think, in the United States, we are famous for being a city that no one jaywalks in.
Ah.
So it was really shocking to come to England and no one, it's just like
Constant jaywalking.
jaywalking. Look, look, run. Look, run.
Which makes
That's the secret, huh? That's how you get around London in a timely manner. Just look, run.
you feel extremely stressed out as foreigners because we don't know which way to look. So we're like, oh, we can't just wait for this light, which is going to last forever. We should jaywalk, but then we don't know which direction the cars are coming from. So if we jaywalk, we might die.
I think I'd like it. A little feel like I'm doing something wrong, but it's actually legal. No, I'd be concerned as a driving around. That's would be what I'm scared of. Random people jaywalking in the road. I'll jaywalk all day. Sign me up.
So it's kind of like.
And then you know who the foreigners are because they're the ones
They're
that
the
are
dead
waiting
ones.
for the light.
Oh.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you've ever visited England, do drop a comment down below and let us know what culture shocks shocked you. I'd love to...
Okay, I think that's the end, huh? Okay, that's it. That's the 10 things that shock Americans. A couple of those really did shock me, to be honest. This was a good video. This was by Wandering Ravens, by the way. I gotta give this a like. That was really good. Very nice video. This was good. Like, it's tough to come up with, like, actually interesting, random cultural differences sometimes, because there's the ones that have been done to death a million times that even a lot of Americans are aware of. But a lot of these were like, even the jaywalking stuff, the tiny, the tiny London tube. What else? Lots of diversity and multiculturalism. That just makes sense now that I think of it. People wait patiently for the tube. The light switches are reversed. I didn't know. Like, that was not a thought in my life until now. So I don't know if I like the burden of knowing that. Up is on here. Tipping is kind of confusing. There's way more cheese. These were good culture shocks, actually. I liked this. Anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to English culture, British culture, stuff there that I've never seen before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.